Jack was a college student who took a summer job working night shifts at a remote gas station in the middle of nowhere. The job was monotonous, with little to do but count the occasional car passing by. But Jack enjoyed the solitude, finding comfort in the quiet darkness. One night, as he was restocking the shelves, he heard a voice calling out to him. At first, he thought it was just his imagination, but the voice grew louder and more insistent. It was a deep, raspy voice that promised him power and wealth beyond his wildest dreams. Jack tried to ignore it, but the voice was persistent, filling his mind with visions of glory and success. Just as Jack was about to give in to the voice's tempting promises, he heard a new sound. It was a loud, guttural growl, like an animal preparing to attack. Jack turned towards the door and saw it was pushed open, revealing a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. It was a grotesque mix of human and animal, with razor-sharp claws and teeth that dripped with saliva. Jack froze in terror as the creature stepped into the gas station. It looked directly at him with its glowing red eyes, as if it could see into his very soul. The creature lunged forward, its claws slashing through the air. Jack managed to dodge the attack and swung the broomstick at the creature, but it barely flinched. Jack knew that he was no match for the creature, but he refused to give up without a fight. He ran to the back of the store, looking for a way out. As he reached the door to the storage room, he heard the creature's claws scraping against the floor behind him. He turned around to see the creature charging towards him, its jaws wide open. With no other choice, Jack dove into the storage room and slammed the door shut behind him. The creature pounded on the door, trying to break through, but Jack held it shut with all his might. Hours passed as Jack huddled in the darkness, waiting for the creature to leave. When he finally opened the door, the sun was high in the sky, and the gas station was bathed in daylight. But the creature was nowhere to be seen. Jack knew that it was still out there, waiting for him in the shadows. Shaken and traumatized, Jack fled the gas station, leaving everything behind. As he drove away, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching him. Weeks passed, and Jack tried to put the experience behind him, but he found himself plagued by nightmares of the creature. He couldn't concentrate on anything, and his grades started to slip. One night, as he was walking home from a late class, he saw the creature again. It was standing in the shadows, watching him with its glowing red eyes. Jack tried to run, but the creature was faster, and it chased him through the deserted streets. Just when he thought he couldn't go on any longer, he stumbled into an abandoned building. The creature followed him inside, and they fought again. This time, Jack was more prepared, having armed himself with a metal pipe. The fight was brutal and intense, but in the end, Jack emerged victorious. As he walked away from the abandoned building, battered and bruised, Jack realized that he had been forever changed by his encounter with the creature. He knew that he could never go back to his old life, and that he would always be looking over his shoulder, waiting for the creature to come back. But as he walked, he also realized that he had gained something from the experience. He had faced his fears head on and emerged stronger for it. He knew that he could survive anything that the world.
Emma had taken a job at an abandoned factory in the middle of nowhere, working the night shift. She had heard rumors about the factory being haunted, but she needed the money and dismissed the stories as mere superstitions. On a stormy night, the power went out, and Emma was left alone in the dark factory. She reached for her flashlight, her fingers shaking as she switched it on. The only sound she could hear was the rain pounding against the roof, and the darkness was absolute. As she navigated the factory, the darkness seemed to play tricks on her mind, making her see ominous shapes in the shadows. With every step she took, the sound of her own breathing grew louder and more terrifying, and she felt as though she was being watched. Suddenly, Emma heard a noise, a low, guttural sound that seemed to come from deep within the factory. She tried to pinpoint the source of the noise, but it was as if the sound was all around her, coming from the shadows themselves. As Emma tried to push on, her fear reached a boiling point when she saw a shape in the distance, lurking just beyond the reach of her flashlight. It seemed to be watching her, waiting for her to make a move. Frozen with fear, Emma stood there, unable to move as the figure slowly moved closer. It seemed to be made of mist or shadow, yet somehow it seemed solid and real. Emma's heart raced as the figure drew closer, and she could feel an intense cold emanating from it, like a freezing wind. As the figure loomed over her, Emma could see that it had no discernible features, no eyes or mouth or any other defining characteristics. It was just a shape, and yet it seemed to radiate a malevolent energy that made Emma's skin crawl. As Emma tried to back away, the figure seemed to follow her, moving closer with each step. She could feel its presence all around her, suffocating her like a thick fog. Finally, as the power came back on, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving Emma alone and trembling on the factory floor. When Emma told the police what had happened, they searched the factory but found no evidence of anyone else being there. The police investigation was inconclusive, leaving Emma with the memory of that night, haunted by the terror she had experienced in the abandoned factory. She never returned to that job again, and the experience stayed with her for the rest of her life. If you enjoyed these stories, why not think about subscribing so you won't miss any uploads? Thanks.